I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:31. Let's stand and say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think everybody's done their audio check, except maybe Mike. Did you do one?
Yep. Yeah, and Rocco and Becky are both on Zoom.
Since you printed out our agendas for everybody, you want to just go ahead and bring them up so we can see them? That way I know if somebody's trying to talk.
What? I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Can we see their faces instead of?
Oh, yes, yes.
Since we all have a copy of the agenda, which would be good. And I won't know if they're trying to speak if I can't see them. I want to remind everybody tonight, we have a relatively, hopefully short meeting, but I want to remind everybody that we do have people on Zoom and there's side talking taking place. It makes it hard for people to hear. And so we need to be sure and take turns in talking.
Is it a good thing to raise our hand here?
It'd be great.
Because I haven't done that. I apologize.
That'd be helpful. I know you want to talk.
I did, well, I don't have to.
Okay, do we have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Our minutes still aren't ready. Nate, you weren't able to do it.
No, I apologize. I'll have those next time.
So the agenda for this evening is rather short. Does anybody want to add anything or delete something or correct anything?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
All right. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening?
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, do we have anyone for public comment this evening?
No.
So our old business that we are addressing this evening is the land use code rewrite. Status update. I don't know if Nate has anything different than what I have, but the status that I have is that Austin sent us this via email. I sent it out to everybody. And this is what he's working on right now and needs comments on. He did leave off the short-term rental parking spaces that we have previously put in because he's trying to coordinate with what's being done by other parts of our town government regarding short-term rentals. Todd, I don't know if you have a sense of what we need to do on parking spaces, or we kind of already did parking spaces according to bedrooms. And he just didn't add it because he thought he should wait on what y'all.
I would proceed on as you see fit.
Okay.
Anything we do under STRs is likely to be likely tied back to what may actually be in code or what may be coming in code, with the exception of the STR specific items.
Okay. Well, that's, I think we'd already said how many bedrooms and how many parking places they should have. So I'll just tell them to use what we had already put in. All right. So if Nate so kindly printed this out for us. Thank you, Nate.
Yep, you're welcome.
So let's start going through this. He has the minimum lot dimensions, and Rocco, I'm assuming you're looking at this as well. It was sent via email. So he's really simplified it as we talked about last time. There's an R1, there's an R2, mixed use and open. And so here are the sizes of the R1 is 5,000 square foot lot, and the width is 50 feet. You can see it all listed there, the setbacks, etc. And the R2 is smaller, 4,000 square feet. And they mentioned the maximum density. It's odd to me that you would have more units, an acre, in a smaller piece of property. Does anybody have a better understanding of that than I do?
I had the same question. Seems like a bigger unit would need more square feet, but I don't understand the logic. Maybe it's clear and it's just not clear to me.
I think in general, the more dense your residential zone district is, then, well, let me rephrase that. R1 is typically single residences, where R2, you're going to get potentially more
Is that like a
density.
duplex or something like that?
Mhm.
This is not going to be retroactive, right? This is for like new development.
Right.
So the only way in 4,000 square feet that you get 18 units is you go up 18 units an acre.
Mhm.
How many square feet are in an acre?
43,500 something.
Mhm.
So if we divide that out,
It's about 1/10 of an acre, a little less.
so 4,000 square feet or 1/10 of an acre, which puts 1/10 of 18.
So the R2 height is 35 feet, and that's about 3 stories.
And they have that for R1 as well.
That's what it is currently.
So you got a 3-story building on a 4,000 square foot lot or less. So it's minimum lot. Okay, so it's at least 4,000. I don't know, is this something that the lawyer contributed?
Yes, in fact, this is what Austin sent to me for us to discuss and get back to him if we wanted any changes. I can make the addition of the short-term rental that we already did. I'll mention that to him, but they're probably not going to finish in time for us to just sit and wait on them. And so that would be helpful. Nate, if you could tell us what's different here than what we previously had, if you know.
I think it's,
Final draft.
are you talking about setbacks again, or specifically, or the whole chart?
The whole chart of dimensional standards, if you can see things that he's obviously changed.
Looks about the same. Right now we have different side setbacks according to the size of the lot. So right now our R1 districts are defined by lot size. So it's 5,000, then 10,000, then 15, and then 20. The only one that has the 5-foot side setback right now is the smallest lot size. All the larger lot sizes have a 10-foot side setback. Everything has a front 15 right now and a rear 10, except for, I believe, business. Business district, I think, has that 0.
That's the mixed use. Is that right?
Yeah, now we don't have business, we have mixed use, which
No sit.
has everything, basically, primarily commercial and institutional with limited residential. So I was just gonna bring up this. So here you can see our current zones as they're defined.
So if our zones have to be everything has to be a minimum of 4,000 square feet. Our smallest previously, where did that go?
It's 5,000. That's how it is now. And
He's made a smaller minimum now, right?
only for R2,
Right.
R1 is the same.
And so minimum is 5,000, so it doesn't change whether it's 10, 15, or 20, we don't need to address that. And he's just made a smaller parcel or lot size than we currently have. At 4,000. So, our smallest was 5, is that correct?
Yeah, that's the way it's currently defined as well, is basically that 5,000 is the minimum. Here it is right here. Development requirements, minimum lot, 5,000, frontage
Do we
50.
have any idea why it changed to 4,000?
Well, that's only for R2.
Yeah, I know
So
it, but wasn't it 5 before on R2?
we did not have an R2 before. Well, let me take that back. What was it before? It was. Yeah, we did. Sorry. Let's see. It was here. Minimum lot area 20,000. That's kind of going the
So that's-
opposite.
Yeah, that dropped.
It's confusing. Why would we go smaller to allow duplexes and 2-family homes? It doesn't make sense. Why it makes sense to me.
And no setbacks for mixed use and 45 feet tall.
Okay, well, let's wait till we go to those. We're still stuck on R1 and R2.
Oh, just those two.
So why would you make it smaller? For duplexes and when they need,
You'd think they need more space. They're gonna have to have more parking lots and things like that.
and you would think they would need to be at least the same size of the 5,000. And they're giving them the same setbacks, same heights.
Less width. And
The only thing I can think
smaller
of is
lot width.
it's a different density, so they're trying to allow for maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's R2 is defined as medium density and R1 is low density.
Right.
So I think that those measurements reflect that, and I also think that R2 would be relatively limited in scope as to, you
Do
know,
we have
how many parcels.
R2s now?
Yeah, it's very limited. Let me go grab the zoning map.
Is
Actually,
the property
I'll
right here
bring it up
beside
here.
the city hall on R2?
that's PUD,
Okay.
but let me bring up the current zoning map for you.
We're doing that. Are we explicitly stating here someplace that current properties are grandfathered, whether they meet these standards or not? And seems to me that we can't go backwards and say your property doesn't match these standards. What are you
Yes,
gonna
that's
do
correct.
about it? Because you know, they've been there for 75 or 100 years.
This has always been new construction.
Just new construction. All right.
So
We explicitly state that so that people aren't confused when they look at this.
You should have a non-conformance for built for structure and use section somewhere in this code.
what? So you're-
Non-conformance,
Sorry.
because that would be a non-conforming structure or non-conforming lot or
And if
non-conforming
it's
use.
that way, because it's been that way for 100
Yeah.
years, we're not gonna make them change it, right?
Right.
Okay.
Here's the only R2s right now. There's I don't know if that's that looks like, right, yeah, that apartment complex next to the lodge there. And then there's a couple of I don't know, it's not really duplex, couple rentals right here next to the park. There's this stretch down here, which has that hotel or what looks like it used to be a hotel, this little studio apartments, and then those duplexes kind of in a row there between the old fire station and I don't know what zone. Looks like that's zone business down there. See that?
But they can remain.
So I think pretty much the idea is to, well, I guess I don't know for sure, but I know when talking to Nina previously, it was pretty much, everything that's R1 here now would be essentially R1, although differently defined. Same thing with R2. Everything business, for the most part, would go to mixed use, and then there's the there's not even a public now, so all the town hall and the fire station, everything would be mixed use.
So the R1 that's there on Hondo, is that where that parking lot is?
Well, I'm sorry, the R1,
On Hondo.
yeah, everything's R1. Yellow is all R1.
Oh, okay.
And then within the yellow, it's right now defined by lot size. So right now we have different setback requirements, and see on this, there's on this R1 5-acre hillside district that we have now, the minimum lot area is 5 acres. And then that comes with, much different setbacks than other R1s.
So I guess our question is, do we want to get rid of those larger ones? That were in current code in R1? All those different options and different setbacks. And just keep it to this. What's the disadvantage of doing it? Somebody couldn't build a larger place. I mean, is there anything that really is 10 or 15 or 20,000? There are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me trying to find some stats that
But this is
Put
just
together.
minimum, so they can build larger, right? It's just they would have a smaller setback than they previously would have had with their larger. Lisa?
So when, Mike, you made the comment about grandfathering in and things. So if, this just brings to mind a question I have. So if you have a lot you've never built on and it's less than 5,000 square feet, you can't build on it. Okay. Got it.
correct, you would have to ask for a variance.
Okay.
Or you could build a high rise if it's 4,000 square,
If
which
it's
doesn't make. any
Only if
sense.
it's zoned R2.
3 levels tall. I think what's really limiting a lot of building now are the laws that have changed around the septic systems. And so you have to have a really big area for your septic system to qualify with the law. Todd, since you've been through that recently, do you feel like 5,000 square foot lot is large enough to comply with the septic requirements?
Well, there's other options. There was a build after hours that did not have enough room for a leach field. And so as their tank fills up, they have to pump it out. Okay, so there are, I think they call those blind systems.
Blind?
I'm not,
So
they
they're
have a
just
name
tank
for it.
with no leach field.
They have a
You
tank
just
with
pump
no
them
leach
out every
field.
time they get full, just like
Yep.
the one we have at the store.
Yeah, exactly.
We have
And
one of
I,
those.
Yeah.
since the town was originally laid out with pretty much as far as residential areas, 5,000 square foot lot size minimums. I mean, that's what it's been for a long time. That could be a consideration as well.
So if you're gonna have denser property with more people, more bathrooms, more parking spaces, et cetera,
Yeah, makes sense.
why would you make it a smaller minimum at 4,000 square feet? I just wonder if your septic would even fit for all those people.
Well, that's going to be the limiting factor.
Yeah.
with a lot of these higher density things are the septic
Okay.
systems.
Why don't we just change that back to 5,000 instead of 4,000? That
Well-
maybe need to make it even bigger than that.
It was 20,000, right, Nate?
Was 20?
Um,
In the
That
old,
seems
in the
like-
old code.
That's 4 times bigger than a R1.
We could split the difference with 10.
Yeah. Now we're just pulling numbers out of our butt here, so.
yeah, 20,000.
20.
20 is what it was.
I think you should put it back.
So the minimum lot size for R2, we're suggesting would be 20,000 square feet.
Excuse me.
And then that changes it all the way down, the width of the lot and
So that's about a half an acre, a little less than a half acre to
Mhm.
put a multi-family on.
does that exist in?
I don't know whether it exists or not, but it might
New
eliminate the
development.
number of those we have.
Well, and it could also set the standards for if someone comes in and buys in multiple properties
Mhm.
and tries to obliterate the property lines and whatnot to put in
Mhm.
Put
Well,
in
the big building.
whatever
They'd
they're
have to
desiring.
put at least 4 together.
So are we being unreasonable to make it a minimum of 20,000? Is
No, I
that
don't think so.
unrealistic or unreasonable?
Well, we can say it and then if
Well,
Austin thinks we're,
it's been that way, hasn't it?
yeah.
And we
It
just put
has
it
been
back
that
where
way.
it was.
It has been that way.
Yeah.
And they could ask for a variance
I'd
if
say
it's a
there's just no
problem.
reason to change it.
Rocco, you haven't weighed in. Lisa, what are your thoughts?
I was going to ask Rocco what he thought. Yeah, I think a larger would be appropriate. There he is.
Yep. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So I can't see myself, so I don't know, you're probably getting an unflattering picture of me, but that's okay.
It's really blurry. Don't worry.
Okay. I guess it would be helpful in the future and the table is good to start the conversation, but I think it would also be helpful to understand the background, the philosophy behind why this was presented with the changes. What is this trying to accomplish? And, what's the so what to us in the planning commission, just so we can kind of guide our discussion. Is this meant to encourage development? If so, how? And just from my perspective, if we had that, it would probably help guide our discussion if we understood the philosophy behind it. So that's my input on this specific discussion. 20,000 square feet is just shy of half an acre. I think it would be a question back to the attorney. Why did you lower the lot size?
Mhm.
And what are you trying to accomplish? And then we can have a more informed discussion. That's my 2 cents on this.
I think that's a good suggestion, Rocco. The inclination of this group is to go back to the way it was at 20,000. And feeling like that's required to really make something livable and comfortable for all of us to live around it.
Mhm.
That's our first reaction to it.
Well, as we look at that map, where in the world would we put a half an acre? And would we have to go in and rezone R1 to R2 in order to accommodate that? So there's a few plots there that have some unbuilt area on them, but this town doesn't have that much space.
It's the red that's R2, is that correct?
No, it's like this
really pretty
orangish.
things right there.
There's barely any on here.
Yeah.
Just for reference, this PUD here is right next door is 1.7 acres. But that's, oops, let me look.
That's 1.7, huh?
Yeah, and that's only not including this triangle here.
Mhm.
That triangle next to it towards the highway is.
How big is the Joyland parking lot?
that's, hold on one second. So this is just for reference, this triangle is, almost exactly an acre, 25,000. So there would be a potentially a parcel next to those units right next door that would, be a minimum, at least, meet the minimum of half an acre in order to put, more apartments on or something.
Right.
What was that question? And the Joyland?
Yeah, I have some, I'm not real good with numbers. I just, something I.
It's hard for that. The Joyland parcel itself, which is
It's big.
much more than just the parking lot, but the entire parcel is 5 acres. And so that's this entire B parcel here is
That's a lot
5
of
acres.
square feet.
The let's see, town hall. Town hall parcel is 1.5. And the fire station is 2. It's
So
just for
anything that
reference.
you have marked R2 right now is 20,000 or above, correct? Because that was the old.
Yeah, I don't know. It's possible that those could have been updated. I can check a couple of, I have suspicion that this one here is not that big, but I'll check it.
I'm surprised if it is.
No, that's only 9,900 square feet.
That's basically
So-
half of what we.
Yeah, so it was probably already zoned that way and then the regulations changed. So then it became a non-conforming, which would only come into play if they were trying to change something, add on or,
Is there already a structure there?
yeah, there's 2 homes there. It's kind of like almost like an unattached duplex, almost kind of
Is that
thing.
those 2 homes that have all the
Like,
The flags there.
flags and the
Oh, that's where Craig Gooding
Halloween
lives.
decorations? and
Yeah,
everything?
there's that one and the home right next to it are,
Okay, so they're
the same.
duplex or triplex or something like that.
well, I think they're single units, but they're 2 on one parcel.
Mhm.
And then let's look at the,
I guess my biggest concern would be if somebody had already bought something and was zoned R2 and they were planning to build on it. And we changed the codes, all of a sudden they've got a piece of land that they can't do what they expected to do on it. I don't know if there's any situation like
Doesn't look
that.
like there's many R2s around.
no,
There
and-
are any that
Across
aren't
the
built
street, is that right behind Sally Bush, that shop with the 2 big doors behind Sally Bush? Is that where that is?
no, this is it's like a 4-plex. I think it's,
Okay,
yeah, there's that lodge. The B here is the Green Mountain Falls Lodge, and then right next to it is, it's like a 4 or 6-plex. It's an apartment. But it's very strange on the assessor side. It doesn't list the entire, it's very odd. It doesn't list the entire parcel as filling that space. It has it as 4 tiny little
That's-
parcels that don't even basically have an area. It's labeled as a condominium.
Is that on the main road there? Oops, I'm
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's been there forever.
Yeah,
I know the people.
it's very weird the way that I can show you how the,
Well, my big question right now, is there any R2 that is not currently built on? Because I don't want to do, screw something.
Right. Probably not. I'm not sure why that one is labeled R2. That's,
those R2s are the,
and these are all
kind of
those,
like those cabins down along the road on the north side of the road going out.
right. And there's that little, right next to the old fire station, there's that little studio apartment
Yeah,
thing.
You've got a lot of
Um,
them.
let's see. What this one is, this investment, multi-unit, 13,000 square feet. I'm just looking at some of the 75, oh, I don't know why that's R2, but there are some resident, like what I would consider normal residential. This is the parcel with the separate cabins on it is 37,000 square feet.
So it would qualify anyway, but, so we don't have anything that hasn't been built on that's zoned R2 that we know of.
I don't think so. There might be this one here I'm looking at, which is. Interesting. Says it's owned by the city of Colorado Springs. It's basically this
What's
parcel
that,
right
right,
here
the
where,
A?
yeah, where the A is here. There's nothing there, I don't think, on that parcel. Yeah, it's just land only. Zoned R2, but it's owned by the city of Colorado Springs, probably some utility situation going on there. And the one on the corner, I don't think there's a,
Where's your
I
cursor?
don't think there's a structure there either, and that's 6750 square feet. That'd be right on the corner where the, basically where the T is, the last lot before the street. So it looks like, I mean, this is kind of a good illustration of kind of how you would want it, because you would want, in theory, more higher density grouped together kind of in a strip or in a, you know, common place. We have some random things. I'm not sure why that is R2. I think that's, and then this is a, you know, business. I think that's,
One of those is a parking lot for the
Yeah.
sky space.
that must be this one. I don't know. This map could also be a little bit, although it is the official zoning map, some of the parcel lines could have changed as well, since it was,
So previously, R1 and R2 or all these other definitions were defined by the size that it already was. And
Oh.
now it's going to be defined by the use. Have I got that difference correct?
well, R2, I guess, well, I don't know, say that again. I don't know. I don't understand.
Previous code, R1, R2, just for sake of those two, were defined by the size that they already, if they were 5, 10, or 15 square feet, 1,000 square feet, then they were R1. If they were R2, it was defined by a different size. Is that correct? Or how, what made them R2?
Mhm.
I don't think that's, the R1s were definitely segregated by size, and each size had its own setbacks, minimum lot size. They all have the same building height pretty much, but R2, it looks to me like that was sort of included with that minimum lot size. That didn't really mean much because there's R2 zone that don't meet that. So I don't know how that came to be, but I don't think it's very consistent with what actually exists on the ground.
Well, we do want it to mean something,
Yeah.
or why even have it? Might as well all be R1, right? So
I think it's good to account for that type of housing.
Well, it's the type of housing that defines the R2 from R1, right?
Yeah,
R1
well,
is-
it's the use, yeah,
R1
so,
single family dwelling and the
Mhm.
R2s are multiple family dwellings.
right,
just the change that I was talking about. We're now not defined not by the size, but we're defined by the use. The two different ones are defined by the use.
You still are
It's-
defined by the.
right, it's still the
R1 and
same.
R2 are still, R1 is residential and R2 are multifamily.
See, it says here in the current code, R2 is the basic residential zoning category for development of residential land at slightly higher densities. And that's pretty much what it says in the new version. It says intended to accommodate medium density residential use with a range of accessory institutional and community facility uses. R1 is intended to accommodate low density residential uses with complementary accessory uses.
Okay, so the use was the same, even though our map doesn't look like that's really all true. Todd, please.
I would suggest that you pick whatever you think is right. Because I suspect that what the lawyer might have done on this one was look at our smallest existing R2 and maybe tried to make a match.
That makes sense.
Uh,
And then, so I would
Mhm.
suggest that whatever you think is the right
Mhm.
thing for the higher density family units, that you go ahead and put that in.
Okay, great. thank
The other thing I can do, I started to do this and I just haven't been able to continue it yet, but I created a GIS layer that has the square footage is listed and calculated. So what I could do is create a map that shows by color code lot sizes. So
Oh, that'd be
so that
helpful.
could be cross-referenced with this map basically to inform what makes sense for
Mhm.
what will be or what should be R2 or what should be R1, I guess, but basically what should be R2 or
That would help because
What
there
next?
wasn't zoning when this town started. Everything's different. You know, every
Mhm.
piece of land was different.
yeah.
you. Nate, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
I really appreciate
So
that.
just make a priority to create that for the next meeting at least, or I could send it out to you as well, just kind of as a,
So our
Oh,
next
that-
meeting is actually with Austin.
Right.
With the draft, so if we have a chance to look at that ahead of time, I
Mhm.
will address sort of what Rocco said when I get back with Austin and say, what was your thought process?
Mhm.
If it's sort of like Todd was thinking it is, then let's tonight settle on what is our preference? Is it 10,000? Is it 20,000? What is our group? Assuming that that was the rationale, Rocco, that he was just looking at our map and looking at what they already were. What does this group think is a reasonable size for this kind of density?
I don't have any idea.
and there's questions, well, part of the analysis will be, like, should some of these parcels that are R2 now, should they really continue to be R2 or not? Or, is there a different space in town that that should be? I mean, I think clearly this PUD should be R2. The one next to it should probably be R2. Maybe some other undeveloped larger parcels, maybe just in case someone, it kind of gives a little bit of an incentive to develop if there's a good place for that. Because if not, if something's already zoned R1 and they want to do an R2 project, then they have to, go through the whole rezoning process. So there might be other places where it makes sense. Like, I don't know, I'm just picking these randomly, but this is a larger parcel here that's zoned now as a 5-acre R1. Should that be R2? Is that a good, I know that's a pretty steep slope there, but is that something that's not in the middle of, the traditional residential space that could potentially be developed? Because I think, it'd be good to have some option for that, but
This is where your map that you're going to provide us will be very helpful for us to sort of really clearly see that.
Well, let me ask, do we want to encourage multiple family dwellings or not? I wouldn't want to encourage them in this town. But maybe I'm operating on the wrong wavelength. Because if you don't want to encourage them, I'd say put the size up to 20,000 or something like that. If we really want them, well, then I suppose we can bring it down, but.
What does the comprehensive plan say regarding?
Or the planning commission, we maybe need to change it.
We gotta listen to the citizens.
Of course, they say the comprehensive plan is a guide. It's not
Yes, it is.
set
That's
in
why I want to
stone.
consult it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we consult it, but we don't have to. It doesn't tell us what to do.
see who can get to it first here.
Rocco, you worked on the comprehensive plan, didn't you? Do you remember whether it wants to encourage multiple family dwellings or not?
I'm not sure it addresses that. It paid some lip service to affordable housing. And how you want to interpret that is up to you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I interpret that as a trailer park, which I don't want to encourage.
Yeah.
I mean, which we do not want.
I think we learned from the tiny home issue that there's not too many people that want tiny homes and trailer parks around here.
Here's some stats that are, oh, sorry. Or two. So, okay, update the land use code to allow higher downtown density, higher lot coverage and apartments above commercial spaces.
Mhm. What's
So,
higher lot coverage mean?
use
Hotels.
like
Hotels.
bigger footprint on the lot,
Mhm.
which goes against fire
Mhm.
Mhm.
stuff. So that's kind of a larger discussion, but this has some. So this says, of the 511 built residential parcels, 6 are duplexes, 4 are multifamily of up to 8 units. The 85 vacant parcels that still exist within the town boundary range from 0.1 to 2.5 acres. So that's kind of a good, and that's another thing I can do on the map. I can identify at least mostly accurately the vacant parcels, because that's a layer that they created when they did this study that we have. So I can overlay the vacancies with the lot sizes so we can kind of see, all right, see that graphically instead of just in a sentence. So
And that's a good point you bring up about the fire issue, is if we allow R2s to be somewhere up the hill where, it's harder to evacuate, you've got more density there and, yeah, so.
that, and also the fire spreading, if you have
Mhm.
structures closer together, it's easier for
Oh,
them
right.
for it to spread.
Right.
So that's where your setbacks come into play, and the
Yeah.
basically setbacks, but the width too, there's that width measurement.
I hear a lot of people talking about, they love the character of the town, and if we allow or promote a bunch of high density housing, that's going to change the character of the town. And I don't know that people here want to do that. I certainly don't. I don't know whether I speak for anybody but myself.
No, I think it's a concern.
I do too, and evacuation problems, definitely.
So what about the apartments above commercial? Is there a special sort of designation that we need to have so that it could be residential / business as well?
I think, well, the mixed use zone allows for, it says, accommodate primarily commercial and institutional uses with limited residential uses at a neighborhood scale, whatever that means, but.
There are apartments over the Mucky
I
Duck
know
and
there are apartments
the
people living there. Yeah,
Yeah,
The,
they,
Blue Moose, and
yeah.
the Stones and Bones, they live there.
yeah, they live in the back of theirs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's an old fashioned way of doing business.
It is.
Mhm.
Hell, we could live up in the
Right.
attic of ours.
Sure, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah,
Ooh.
You might never be able to stand up.
That's right.
Okay, let's not get off track too much. I was just curious about if there's anything we need to do about that, but if mixed use allows for that, we're probably good.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't see what we have so far. I don't think it really defines limited residential. But I'm sure it's probably going to be defined, usually it's defined as sort of where in the building is it, like it can't be the storefront, but it could be the rear or an upper apartment or something. Or sometimes it'll have like a size limit, like, the residential space can't be larger than the commercial space or some language like that. But I don't know that we have that from Austin yet, as far as I'm sure that'll be in his full draft. So something to keep an eye on.
Already got what we've got. So whatever it is, and there isn't any more space to build in the commercial.
Mhm.
It's already taken up unless they put another story on it. Go up with it. But I don't sense anybody down there wants to do that.
Right.
So here's a question of something else that's been changed. 5,000 square foot lot has a, setback, you know, of 15, 5, 10, whatever, depending on where. And previously, a 10,000 square foot lot had a 10-foot setback. So
Side.
are we concerned about losing these setbacks in these larger properties? Because that's the way this is written, that it'll only be, you know, a 15-foot in the front setback, and it'll be a 10-foot, even though you have this larger house. I don't want to see a mansion that's, lot line to lot line, or feels that way because you don't have enough of a setback. And again, there's the firefighting issue. Is that a concern for anybody?
I think that's a pretty good concern myself.
Mhm.
And again, it wouldn't change what's going on now, but as time evolves and people do things and on their lots, it could really impact because people up here, there's limited space, so people want to make the most of the space that they have, which means a lot of people would, take the most of that, right? They would say, oh, there's only a 5-foot setback, then I'm going to build right up to that setback. And then all of a sudden you've got all these lots that now have tiny little cabins on them. They get torn down. People are buying. I mean, it's going to happen. People are going to buy up these lots. They're going to tear these cabins down. They're going to want to build larger structures on them.
Yeah.
And how's that going to look? I don't think a 5-foot setback is good long term personally. And if I had I guess if you're the one that has the large lot, then you have your own space. But if you have a tiny little lot and someone builds a giant house right next to, within 5 feet of your property line, that could be kind of annoying. So.
Yeah.
So, but we could still have the R1 designation as far as the use goes, and still say if your lot is 10,000 and here are the other setbacks, and if your lot is 15,000, here are the other setbacks, and just make them larger. We could still do that, right? Comments from everybody? Anybody? Rocco, comments?
Yeah, I think it's good discussion. I think we don't want to be overly generous in the changes to the setback requirements.
Generous meaning what?
Meaning allowing less and less of a setback. I think setbacks are there for the aesthetic.
Aesthetic and the safety issue, right? Both. And character, yeah.
And remember too, setbacks can be defined, or you can in the code, like for instance, now fences don't require a setback. If you're dealing with landscaping, you could say that retaining walls don't require a setback, so you can leave some flexibility for people to do what they need as far as drainage or fencing, things like that.
So basically,
But
it's the
not
structure.
building a structure
Structure is
the thing.
applies to the setbacks. Yeah.
One additional thing, and this is anecdotal, but my friends in Chipeta Park who fall under the county setback requirements wish that they had the setback requirements we currently have in Green Mountain Falls, because the county's setback requirements are much more restrictive for development than what ours are.
Do you mean it's harder? You mean they have larger setbacks?
Correct.
Yeah.
So for us to go smaller, that's probably not a good direction.
Well,
I think smaller is good for, smaller is good for the person that wants to maximize and cover their lot, with the structure as much as they can. But it's bad so in some ways it's good for development purposes or whatever, but then it's bad for aesthetics and fire and neighbor relations perhaps, but I think,
What?
it does. What's that? Oh, what do you mean? Oh, yeah.
Todd, let us hear you.
We have had at least one other case of like a trapezoidal lot where everyone around them was the 5,000 foot, but they were 10,000 setbacks. And so all their neighbors had 5 foot setbacks, but they had to have 10. And it came in, I think it came in front of the commission at one point, and I think we went ahead with a variance on that one. To
To
allow
let them-
less.
Yeah, it's
Well,
not easy.
I vote for not making it less. So we approved a shed that's been built since I've been on the planning commission, and it was just finished last week, and it just feels really crowded.
It's a
Um,
5 foot setback, right?
Yep,
Or
yep.
on the side, the
It
rear
was
would be
it was
10.
12 by 18. It's ginormous.
Yeah.
It's lovely. I mean, there it is, but I'm
Mhm.
like, wow.
Yeah.
And so I do feel, yeah, it just feels really crowded, like, it's weird.
So
Yeah.
are you saying that you wish you had a smaller setback so you could have moved your shed out farther into the setback? That you
No,
couldn't do?
no, I wish there was a larger setback so they weren't crowding
Neighbor isn't.
our,
cutting you off.
us as a neighbor. And they're using almost every inch of their lot.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's covered with buildings. They've got 2 sheds and a small, house.
And if you've
And,
got 5 foot setback and they've got 5 foot setback and you both use it, you're 10 feet apart.
yeah, well, we're about,
Yeah.
we're about 15, yeah. My kitchen window is looking right into onto their shed.
It's kind of like some of these housing developments.
Yeah,
They build those
so-
big houses, 2-story houses this far apart.
Yeah, and I understand they needed the room and all that, and it's newer, and I mean, it's not ugly or anything,
Well, the
but,
slopes affect everything too.
and yes, and so, yeah, but I mean, I'm just looking, if everyone's lot was like that, it would be very unsafe.
Mhm.
And it would just be really crowded and yeah, so anyway,
Well, and it affects the character as Mike was
Yes,
talking about,
yes.
and Dan was talking about the character of the town.
Yeah.
So I think it would definitely look very different.
yeah,
Yeah, I think setbacks ought to be bigger.
Okay, well, that'll be some feedback that I give him.
can you review what they are right now, please?
Right now, they're basically the same as what you see there, except for the 5 foot side is only on the smallest lot size.
Mhm.
The larger lot sizes all have 10 foot
Okay,
side setbacks.
so we really need.
Right, and the
so here-
giant 5 acre lot has these setbacks, 50, 25, and 50.
That looks good, yeah, I think that we maybe even, we need to
What
increase
size was-
these.
I'm taking notes. What size was that lot? 50, 25?
That's that 5 acre hillside, which is pretty rare. The 20,000 has 15, 10, and 10. And a minimum frontage of 100 feet, which is another one
Mm,
of these that we need to decide on. The lot width is specified here. Currently, we have a minimum frontage and a minimum lot width, which is the width at the front setback line. So that complicates things. I think that's probably an unnecessary double or multiple standard there.
So would you just take that out?
Probably a lot width is sufficient, but again, like if you have a irregular lot, where are you measuring that? So, and in some ways, the current code says 100 feet or, whatever the minimum width is measured at the setback line, which to me kind of makes sense because then you have some guidance of where you're measuring it. If you have a, triangular lot, then are you measuring it, what's your width? Is it at the front, assumed to be at the front or what? So that's a little bit confusing.
Mhm.
we have a lot of irregular
Well,
lots.
I mean, if the lot's already there, we can't change it. I mean, there's a plot of ground there and he buys it. Whether it's 50 feet or 25 feet or whatever it is, we can't change that.
No, but if someone, so for instance, if someone has a structure, they want to add on to that structure, then all of a sudden we're going by the new regulations. So
Okay.
if they have a structure and their lot is only 40 feet wide, then they can't do it. You know, they can't further develop. They are essentially stuck.
I mean, this would be okay for subdivision. If somebody bought a big lot and tried to divide it down, we'd ought to have some limits on that. But it's just so many things in this town can't change because they're there. You can't.
Right. But you just kind of have to envision how the town is going to evolve. And
It gets gentrified.
I mean,
That's what they call it.
yeah, I mean, there's so many dilapidated cabins that, you know, once people pass away and tax bills are paid, you know, I mean, tax sales and all that kind of stuff happen. I mean, it's gonna, yeah, I mean, they're gonna,
Condemned property.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Rocco, any more comments?
Yeah, I was just looking at the county list. They have their minimum lot sizes. They put width at front of setback line. And then they have, you know, different zones, say residential suburban zoning district. That would probably be similar to what we have, where we have lots, 5,000 square foot lots. For example, the county would require a 25-foot front setback, 25-foot rear setback, 5-foot side setback. For the residential suburban zone, 20,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
An example from the county would be a 40-foot front setback, a 40-foot rear setback, and a 15-foot side setback. So those are just for comparison to say what folks in Chipeta Park might be facing.
That's helpful. Thank you. Are we ready to look at mixed use on under dimensional standards? And open.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. There's no setback required in mixed use. And it can be 45 feet tall instead of 35. I don't know why.
Well, if you think about our business district, there's a lot of.
There's no setback currently,
Right, right.
but this would be for something new.
It looks like now for business, even though it's not, again, this is something where I think, you know, things existed and then this code was written and it doesn't really match. But for our business now, there's a 10,000 square foot, which is ridiculous, and to what exists. And there's, because I remember when the fire station, we made them get a variance because you know, they didn't meet the 10,000 square foot. So that was a pain for them, and it wasn't really fair probably because almost every other business in town was never, you know, forced to meet that for whatever reason. Probably. Right.
Little maybe in the backyard of Monkey Duck.
Yeah. And it's got a 15-foot front, and then the side says where adjoining residential district, the standards of that district shall apply. And then it, you know, it says about fire resistance and things.
18-inch setback on our property.
Yeah.
We are 18 inches of the sidewalk.
So again, I mean, whatever new rules are put in place, it doesn't affect anyone immediately, but as soon as you want to if you wanted to expand or whatever, I mean, yours is probably a bad example, but, if the old fire station wanted to expand, or, if, the pantry wanted to expand, into their side yard or into their rear, any major development would trigger conformance to the new rules, or the non-conforming section, which however that's written is another big thing in this that we haven't seen yet from Austin, so.
I think it's just kind of a pain to put people through that variance process and make them pay a bunch more money and get a variance for something that's already been there for 50 years.
I agree, and I like what Austin's done here with, that's competitive to me, and it's our business district. We really don't have the room for the front setback. I like the 0. And I don't know if 5 feet on the side and 5 feet in the rear is too big based on most of the other businesses.
Well, the Blue Moose and the Mucky Duck are just a wall between the two of them.
Mhm.
So there's
You
no
probably want at least 5 for space between the buildings, or we're just gonna have one giant building, like a mall.
That's kind of how it is now.
So
down
it
there.
is.
Right, but
But you mean if
do we
somebody
want to
goes
make a
another-
bigger mall?
Right, but yeah.
There's no more land, is there?
Not unless, well, farm stand, or, that whole area was somehow changed, but that is,
Yeah, that could change. It could be a building.
that's a 22,000, but like if they wanted to expand that Green Box Arts building,
Mhm.
then that would be in this mixed use
Mhm.
zone, and that would, they would have to go by whatever exists or get a variance. But if you're in a position where everyone just has to get a variance all the time, then that's silly.
Doesn't mean-
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
pain for everybody.
Pain for you,
Mhm.
it's pain for them.
Right.
So our
Well-
purpose today would be to try to do something that makes sense for what we do have today. Go ahead, Lisa.
I think, I mean, the existing buildings with, the Blue Moose over to the pantry, those are, I mean, I can't really see that. Of course, it could change, but how would it change if, because they're all connected right now. So that would have to be a major change, and probably what would happen in that case is let's say someone came in and wanted to redevelop that whole area, which I don't even know if would be possible the way the parcel lines are. It's like the ownership stops at the wall. I guess there is a space between the Blue Moose and the urban, but then
Yeah.
I don't think there's spaces until you get to the end of the pantry.
Well, if somebody is going to redevelop it, they're going to build 1 or 2, 3 little stores, or they're going to build another building.
Right.
But, and if they build separate buildings, they want separate stores, we're just saying 5 feet between them, that's all we're saying.
Right.
I think that that's okay.
What about the rear then?
Technically 10 feet between them, because they would each have a 5
Okay,
foot.
right, 10 feet, yeah.
But I'm just trying to envision, sorry, what'd you say? What'd you?
And the rear 5 feet, yeah, that's a little, yeah.
I'm just looking here.
That's usually where parking is.
So just for
businesses back
reference, the
too.
Urban Electronics is a 1836 square foot lot, which doesn't meet that. The Stones Bones is 17. I don't know, there's 2 different confusing numbers here, but
Oh,
I would assume it's 1750.
2,500 square feet, I think is unrealistic.
Unless,
Well-
in that case, they would, well, first, yeah, if it was 2,500 and someone wanted to rebuild the urban store, let's just say, yeah, they would have to get a variance for that, or they would have to buy multiple properties, combine them and build a bigger thing, so.
Business district. Tiny stores. and very little space.
And that's
Yeah.
what's so cute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looking
I-
at-
I guess I'm not understanding as we're looking forward for new development, why we're worried about the existing structures that are there
Right.
and making it all conform to those.
Yeah, no,
I'm confused a little.
I don't think that's.
We're spending
my
a lot
intent. I
of
was just-
time worrying about that.
I'm just thinking about the look of the town, and I've looked at the old black and white pictures, and basically the business district was back then, as it looks now almost. And if you want the charm and you want, to me, you still maybe want some small shops and that sort of thing. Todd, what were you gonna say?
Well, another option on the sides, you could go 0 on the sides, but require a firewall. Cause
Love it.
that's what, like high density in
Yeah.
large cities do. They have.
Put a
it's
concrete
firewall.
block wall between the two or something
Yeah.
like that.
They're actually a fire resistant wall between them.
That's what our current code kind of says. That it says, if there is no side yard, the side wall of the building shall be constructed of 4-hour fire resistant material. If the sidewall material is less than 4-hour fire resistant, the side yard shall not be less than 5 feet, which is pretty much the setback. So it's, yeah. I think that's not a bad idea, just to maybe incorporate the language of our current code, maybe to
Yeah.
0 if fire resistant material is used. I don't know. That way, I'm just trying to think, if one of the existing buildings is added on to up or something, then they don't have a setback, they may have to then upgrade their wall to, keep up, to get up to code in that way. But they could still have that, they wouldn't be forced to shrink their building or something, but they would be forced to upgrade it in a way, which they're already upgrading it anyway, so. I don't know.
So Lamar, you're suggesting that we decrease the square footage of mixed use.
I am. Just
Okay.
Simply because I feel like it.
That
even
way-
if there's someplace
Uh-huh.
to build something new into where the current, farm stand is or whatever, that it would still be nice for you to be able to build a small quaint shop that kind of goes with all the other small quaint shops.
But mixed use could be residential or
There used to be a
residential
grocery
and
store
whatever,
there.
so
Yeah, it allows
it's not
for,
just business, so business I see, but a warehouse or I don't know.
I remember when the Blevins grocery store was there.
So,
So what did we decide about the rear setback?
why, okay, and why would the rear need to be more than the front? Just because usually there's a trash can out there or something like that, right? Okay. Or right, and a back
right now it's
entrance and,
15.
okay.
Yeah, and that's another, parking is another issue, but, what's the new?
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah. I think usually for the development standards, then that's where that requirement comes into play to where,
Mhm.
you can say minimum parking, or ingress, egress, depending on what size of lot or what kind of development it is. But, yeah.
Well, maybe if, depending on what we do down here with parking spaces, that will inform the
Mhm.
rear
Right.
amount. Again, I just don't know that you're not just keeping anybody from doing any more
Mhm.
commercial if you make the 5 foot in the back requirement. I mean, I don't know that any of them have that.
I think they have a pretty good setback because they have that, goes back to the alleyway there, so there's some space, but
Urban's got.
they have
quite a
those
bit,
grease.
and then I don't know whether Mucky Duck has part of Mike Urban space or how that goes.
Oh, yeah.
But then,
In the
Walls
alley.
and Stones have a little setback because they've got a little bridge across the creek and a garage. And then there's a setback for the pantry because they've got some garbage cans back there.
Mhm.
So y'all think the
And
5
we've
foot,
got setback because we've got a lot across the creek.
Yeah, do you think 5 is enough? I mean,
I-
okay.
Yeah,
you think it's not too much?
no, I don't think so in the
Mhm.
back.
All right, let's leave it as is then,
Mhm.
or as he has it.
And then do you want to consider decreasing the square footage for the mixed use?
Yes, what would we do it down to? You had some good averages there. for us.
1700, you said?
What'd I say? The smallest one was 17,
17, I think.
1700.
Stones and bones.
so maybe
Urban
1500 or
Bones and Stones, you said 17 and 18.
1750 and
Mhm. I'm okay with that as long as there's not going to be
18.
residential, like people putting tiny homes right there, or something.
I think for the mixed use, I mean, we'll have to confirm
It
this, but I
has to be
think the
mixed.
intent would be to have, like, the residential would be sort of the accessory use in that case, I
Okay.
guess, or
On,
you would have to at least have both, I
okay,
think. I don't
Okay.
know. We'd have to confirm that, but that would be my thought with that.
okay,
The whole purpose of it is not for it to be a primarily residential
Right.
district, so
right.
it would just allow for the owner to live there. Which. is
Where do
happening.
we have any space to put any more businesses? Is that little triangular park across from the Mucky Duck? Is that available or is that zoned open space?
It's open space, but it also has the whole septic
It's a septic
field.
system.
And then how
for-
about down by the upholstery shop? Is there any room down there for businesses or is that all zoned something else?
That's all, that's kind of weird down there. The parcel lines are really messed up there, but
Is it town?
it's right away. Most of that is right away.
All that
Oh,
parking
right
where
on.
the hikers park?
Mhm.
Oh, good.
So it's not even a zoned parcel.
Ah.
It's like a very wide right of way there.
Okay.
So we
Um,
want to make the minimum 1,500. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Let's
yeah,
do it.
that's fine.
Where else? We had the old firehouse and the Red Cloud and
Marshall's
the
office.
distillery. Those are all business probably, aren't they? Zone business.
Yeah.
And brings up a good point. The marshal's office, I assume, is owned by the town.
Yeah, it's part of that triangle parcel. Right
Is it
now it's
1,500
public.
square feet in size?
The entire parcel is 5,300 almost,
Okay.
but it's, what's that? Oh, the building is like
300.
basically filled with mold and all that kind of stuff. So you would have to,
It's probably 800 square feet.
it would have to be rezoned and probably, I don't know if it would have to be separated into a different parcel or not, but it'd be a,
I think we'll have future use for the marshal's office.
Let's talk
Would it
about a
fit into What
museum.
we're talking about here, mixed use, or would it be,
We might have to rezone the building itself. Or just because
the whole
it's-
thing could be mixed use.
Yeah, we could probably put it under mixed use, but
Okay.
at some point in town's history, I'm sure the marshal's office will probably get restored.
Get it restored and do something with it like a visitor center or something.
Museum or something.
Looks like actually,
You could hand out trail maps.
oh, never mind. I'm looking at the wrong triangle here. But it is owned by the town, so it would have to be either sold or developed or potentially developed as a town revenues thing or something, but that one's 10,000, that whole parcel, 10,800, but it's currently zoned public land.
So
There
there's
is.
really not much space to put any more businesses in town.
No, there's this vacant lot, which is owned, it's currently residential, but it's next to, there's the upholstery shop, then that white house, and then those same owners own this lot, which is a pretty good location for,
Isn't that where the storage units are?
no,
No.
that's totally flat.
Oh,
buildable land right there. It's probably the most valuable parcel in town right now, I would say.
Right, it's just across from the post office,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes it has some tree trucks kind of parked there or something, but basically it's an open field.
Mhm.
Should that be zoned mixed use instead, or?
I don't know, that's where it's gonna get into a tricky, we'll have to consult with attorney on that because, you know, right now it's residential, someone owns it. You know, kind of, I don't know that, I mean, that, it's gonna be a larger question
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
rezoning
That'll
the
be a
whole
rough one.
town and can you force a zone
Yeah.
on someone? I think probably not, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, so, but in the future, if they ever decide to sell it, then at that point, if someone bought it, they could basically come to the town and ask for it to be rezoned.
Uh-huh.
Okay, our open properties have none. That all makes sense to me. Anybody have an issue with it? Rocco, jump in anytime.
Oh, you're saying open is open space, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I have a question on the maximum density, just maybe to note, I don't know if this means like per acre, meaning if you had in a neighborhood, if you had an acre in a certain neighborhood, you couldn't have more than 12 units in that neighborhood as a whole or in that street. I don't know. I just have a question of note. I guess we'll talk to Austin, but
What does that mean?
what does that mean? Does that mean only if, is that only in reference to if you had one parcel that's an acre, or if you had 5 parcels that make up an acre, then you couldn't have more than 12 units across that, but that would be hard to,
That's mine.
it'd be hard to calculate, I guess, but
It would just be if you owned a property that was
an acre.
an
Yeah.
acre or more.
Go ahead, Rocco, sorry.
No, it's fine. So jumping between the audio, when I get Nate's voice, it's very loud, and then it goes back to Lamar, and it gets kind of soft. Are you discussing the dimensional standards? Are you looking at open space right now?
We just finished up with open space.
I think her mic is,
I don't think it works.
it may be here.
that's not turned on back there.
No, the blue light was on.
I thought it was,
It's better, Rocco. No, it's still not good.
Mm-mm. Yeah, mine
I
works.
thought it had faded over time, but maybe it was never
We can
good.
share.
Rocco, can you hear me now?
I can. So you said you've already talked the open space. I guess I didn't hear much about what you said then.
We just decided that it all looked like it made sense to us. If you have a different comment, please make it.
Yeah, well, I think we had asked for an added category for barns, sheds, and outbuildings in that open space. And if that is going to be added to the table of allowed uses in open space, we probably need to account for what can be built there or what the setbacks are. Now, we're not looking at residential units per acre, so that can stay none. And we're probably not looking at primary structure. We might just be looking at accessory structures, but something to consider if we add that barn, sheds, outbuildings as a permissible use in open space, we probably need to account for dimensional standards or at least setbacks.
Okay, that makes sense. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So do you have a recommendation for what those setbacks should be?
Placeholder recommendation, just up for discussion, 25 feet all around
Okay,
for setbacks. Height, we don't want anything too tall in the open space, so probably no more than 25 feet at the most.
The open space, is that private property?
Got a neighbor that's got a health issue that he needs some help with.
thanks for being here.
You bet.
Thanks, Mike.
Must
See ya.
So-
be, Mike.
So, yeah, Mike. And the open space is combining both the public and private open space.
Like what they're doing on next to Highway 24 on the other side of Red Devil Mountain.
Do you have an issue with that, Rocco, that they combined the private and public open space?
No, I think it makes sense because that's kind of the use. The primary use is for open space. So
That's
whether it's
yeah.
it's public or private, but we still probably want to capture some kind of dimensional standards.
It's zoned agricultural, I believe, right now. That's what it said. Mhm.
For what?
No.
I'm pretty sure.
We don't have an agricultural zone.
Well, somehow that was in the agreement when they bought all that land to have the horse rescue. That's the plan. So it would be agricultural, nonprofit.
It would have to be well, now it would have to be mixed use for, well, in the future, it would have to be mixed use. Now it would have to be public lands or, which is pretty flexible zone.
But it's owned by the foundation.
So why would it in the future, Nate, have to be mixed use? Simply because you're putting a shed or a barn on it, or?
I guess open space, it could be.
That's what we were
Yeah,
thinking.
sorry.
Sheds for the
Okay.
horses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Public recreational, yeah, sorry, I was looking.
Okay, good points, Rocco. I've made the notes and I will get back to him on that. All right, let's move down to minimum parking required if we're all ready to move. Residential. The big issue that I have here is that there are homes in Green Mountain Falls that have no parking place. The house that we owned over on Belvedere had, when we bought the home, there's no parking place, zero zip. And everybody said across the street is town-owned property, and that's where you park for this house. So how do we account for that in our codes? Say it where we can hear you, Todd.
Yeah, existing would be non-conforming.
Right. But in the future, let's say,
Someone
If
buys
someone
it.
tears the place down and rebuilds it, they'll probably have to have a garage underneath.
Or if
There
they
was
sell
no
it,
driveway.
it would be,
there was no driveway,
Yeah.
but you could have dug into the mountain in that position, in that particular place and made, it would have been very expensive
wow.
and difficult to do, but you could have done it, a one-car garage. I mean,
Yeah, I would think you'd be looking more at something new or tear something down or, buys multiple properties and combines, then what do you think it should be?
so if they're adding on to their home, would this requirement go into play with the parking place?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes,
yeah,
it
it
would.
probably would. Yeah.
I'm
That's
thinking about
considered
the
new
Tabors.
build.
who
That's
are-
considered new build when you add on a certain size, any amount.
Right now, it's just any,
Okay,
right now it's any
sorry.
new.
Okay.
I think it's a little onerous. Do we have to do this?
Well, is a unit, the house, like, I guess so. I was just trying to clarify that. Is a dwelling unit, does that mean just the house, one house?
Yes,
Is one unit? Okay.
yes.
So this could be written differently. So it says duplex, you could put two are required. Do, two,
Well,
try,
Again,
three.
for like my place,
Mhm.
if we had to have 2 off-street parking. Now granted, we could probably fit 4 up on the pad.
Now, why?
Who required that?
That was part of the code at the time.
Oh, previously. Okay,
Yeah. As
okay.
part of our existing code, we had to have a minimum of 2 parking.
When you
Okay.
built your house?
Okay.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so that,
Again, think about my current house on Hondo. There is down below, there's parking places that any of the neighbors can use. There's about 3 or 4 spots there. How do you assign that to a home? How do you decide who owns it?
Is that actually in the right of way?
Probably.
So
Well-
if someone built new, then what would the how many would you require? How many parking off-street, pardon me, I'm stumbling my words terribly here. How many off-street parking places do you think a new home or a major rebuild should have,
Or a remodel.
remodel?
Mhm.
Rocco, thoughts?
Yeah, I thought, the table, I looked at it, it seemed reasonable. And I understand that there's a lot of outliers in town and, some existing structures don't have their own off-street parking, which is the reality. I think if somebody comes in and wants to tear down a cabin, put up something new, it's gonna have to be addressed. It's a consideration.
I agree with that, but what about if you just wanted to remodel your house and maybe add a bedroom? You should have to build a whole bunch of parking spaces if you're just remodeling.
I think if I think the key is if the footprint is changing or not. So like,
So if you
as far as
went up,
triggering,
footprint didn't change, you're good.
no.
Yeah, that's
We don't want
That's what we
that.
did on
We don't want a
Belvedere.
bunch of little.
That's what we did on that one place on Belvedere. The footprint did not change. They went up.
He went up.
We did not require any additional parking. If I remember correctly.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, because there's that major remodel on Belvedere.
Yeah.
that's finishing up.
Yeah, that's the Tabors. That's the one I'm
Is
thinking
that
of.
the
or
one?
not.
Yeah, where it went up.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm,
yeah.
3
Yeah.
stories.
And I think they
I
only,
think that was right before I started.
I think they only have one parking place currently, I think.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
right.
think we required any additional parking for them. I don't remember any additional repair. I remember building height, I think was the big question that came up on that one.
The other thing, which I don't know how much, I haven't really studied this part, but the new code that was just passed last year has a whole section about parking that's not being it talks about residential parking permits and designated
Oh, boy.
zones, and none of this stuff has been implemented or enforced or
A
anything.
1 day
We passed
visitor,
this?
The board passed this.
1 day visitor permit.
And so there's this whole section that has
Oh.
not even been
Uh-oh.
addressed or anything yet.
Uh-oh.
So my thought is that,
I don't want to get consistent with this big mess.
well, my thought was that like I said, I haven't read it or researched it yet,
Wow.
but I'm thinking it's possible for those situations that where there really is no space for parking, maybe those right-of-way areas could be designated officially as assigned to those properties.
Mhm.
I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, but it could,
That's a good idea.
it could make,
Control the situation a
right, it
bit,
could help.
give you some control.
I think that's an
Yeah.
excellent idea.
Yeah.
It's what needs to happen. I can tell you, we were very concerned about purchasing a home where we were told this belongs to the town, but you can park there and you have no documents to
Mhm.
prove that.
Right.
Well, that would allow us to review the easement is if it's going to be safe or not. Is that an area that is going to be too narrow, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So what do we do?
I don't know, I don't know that changes. I was just thinking of that maybe a method to ease or to say for those particular spots that really have no space, if they have an assigned spot as part of the right of way or something, if the town chooses to do that, then that could perhaps count as a space. Is all I'm saying, but I think that's a lot of assumptions and a lot of things that need to happen.
So what if we did single family, just a single family dwelling, 0 required? That sounds terrible, doesn't it? It doesn't sound good. So if we leave then the one dwelling per unit and then let it be known that possibly there's an easement or some other way to get around that, I don't know. What do you think?
Do we need to
Mayor
write that,
Todd?
what he's just said into code? Should that be part of our land use code to allow for that?
I don't know. I guess my point, sorry, Rocco, go ahead. You had some.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of competing things going on. It's good discussion. I think what the attorney presented is probably the most broad-based thing that will apply.
Mhm.
I don't think the town wants to get into opening any policy where the town gives right away or any of that to a private landowner to accommodate this code. We got to keep in mind emergency vehicles, snow plowing, things like that. I think people are going to need to get creative if they choose to do a major rebuild. And the consideration will be not only septic, but also parking.
I think Chief Murphy did hand out or get with someone, let them know what the minimum space require. I seem to remember.
Yeah, it was
something here,
20 feet.
like 20 feet or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we got to maintain that 20-foot path for the emergency
Right.
vehicles.
Well, it's painful. It's, but y'all are making really good points and we need to be able to get our emergency vehicles up and down the road. And as I think of the place on Belvedere, we were way off the, paved road, but I don't know. I like
I
the
mean, it should have some requirement for new development, for sure.
Okay, all right, I agree.
Okay, so we're good with the single family. What is dwelling attached? What does that even mean? Anybody know?
I don't know what it
I think,
means.
I was thinking, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking of it sort of as a duplex situation, but
Maybe.
Well, the
I
next
know
one's
for-
Like somebody living in your garage or something like that, have
Yeah.
a- changing it into a little apartment.
like an accessory
That's the thing that makes the most.
accessory dwelling unit or something.
All
We
right,
should confirm that.
Okay,
I'll have a question mark for the
just
the
what it
attorney.
is, but I still think you need to have one.
duplex. These are two separate families living in one place. Why wouldn't you have two parking places
Well, it's one per unit, so you do.
per dwelling unit?
Yeah,
So same thing with triplex, same
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
with
all of them,
duplex.
yeah.
Okay.
It's just different ways to say it.
Multifamily, 1.5 per dwelling unit.
I don't understand the 1.5 myself, but
Well, I
I guess
guess
when you add it all up. in
one
theory,
family has two spaces, another one has one, whatever, because they might be a single person
In theory, it would average out, I guess.
in
Yeah.
theory.
Okay,
All right, so we're good with there. Group home, large group home. One space per 400 square feet of what? Living area?
guess so.
Same
Probably,
thing with the small
probably.
group home.
Okay,
Manufactured home park. One per dwelling unit plus one guest space per
Glad
every
Mike's-
two.
Glad Mike-
it hurts to even read that aloud, doesn't it?
I didn't think we were doing
Yeah, I
manufactured
think
home
we could.
parks. So can we just take that out?
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
Nursing home, one per four persons of design capacity.
So one for every four persons.
So we're assuming a lot of the nursing home people aren't driving, I guess.
Well, that would be the caretaker, or the caregivers. You need to have one. I mean, that
One
makes
per
sense.
four people.
I think all of these are
Yeah.
probably industry standards,
Yeah,
for lack
yeah.
of a better term. So, and the chances of us having to deal with it are pretty
yeah.
slim. but-
Public institutional civic uses, art gallery, museum and library, one per whatever. Daycare
Community center.
facility, one per six persons. Funeral home,
Community center, one per 1,000 square feet. Like for Sally Bush, we need more for community center.
No,
Seems like you'd need more parking. I don't know. But that must be some standard.
Oops, I'm gonna look at the lot size. It'll,
place of worship, there's no way Our
Yes.
church has one space per 5 seats in main assembly area. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
We don't have that.
No.
It's not that we can't just leave it like this. I don't know how many more churches are going to come in. School, 3 spaces per 1,000 square feet. I'm okay with all
Whatever,
this, public
whatever.
and institutional and civic. Anybody else have comments, Rocco? None of this is probably going to happen, and it's
Yeah.
just industry standards. Okay, we're back. I can't believe Mike's not here for our adult entertainment.
I know, that was a big discussion last time. Right?
Commercial uses, adult entertainment, 1 per 400 square feet of what?
Entertainment.
I don't, did we have adult entertainment? I can't remember.
No.
Did we take that out?
Yes.
But we
I
kept
think we
bars
left it in.
separately. I think we did leave it in, actually. Animal shelter, automotive, bar, brewery. I mean, all this is industry standards. Can we just leave it? Is everybody good with that?
Yep. Hotel, motel, 1 per guest room.
A lot of this will preclude any of these things coming in because we don't have the space for the parking. Todd?
Or they could do like the fire station did, because by design it had like next to no parking whatsoever. And they did I think they did something. We did a variance or something. with
Variance.
that.
Yeah, we did a variance for that.
Yeah,
I mean, mainly they just need
We,
a place for their trucks to come out.
yeah. And under Nina's.
well, we made them have a handicap
Yeah,
spot
we made them have a
or
handicap.
two, 1 or 2, but
But yeah, and under Nina's proposal, there was an option to, if they didn't have space, like the firehouse, there was an option for basically throwing money into a kitty.
Do what?
Throwing money into a fund where they basically pay us off because they don't have any parking space.
to basically maintain town spaces
Pay a
for
fine.
their use. But,
Because they're going to be using those.
right,
You're
Yeah.
talking about the old fire station, right? On the main road, yeah, where they had to have a variance for their wedding
Yeah,
thing.
whatever.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if nobody has comments on this, rest of this, commercial uses, I think we'll leave that as is. Rocco, you have any?
Nope.
And any comments on the commercial spaces?
No,
I was just looking at the, looks like Sally Bush has a building square footage of 7,000 square feet. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I'm just
For
trying to think.
7 parking spots. 7 is what that would be.
Okay, so.
They have that many, I would
they have
say.
that.
Yeah,
At least.
okay. All right.
And then I was just gonna look at the distillery real quick.
Bar or brewery, brewery.
1 per 300 square feet.
It's rather small. They probably have that.
It says 4,200 square foot for the building, for the
Mhm.
building.
Really?
That back part, yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, for their serving area, it's not probably half that.
Do we want to change that?
I was just checking. I think it's fine. I mean, they've got that anyway. I mean, if you,
it is already.
You think they have 1 per 300?
300? They don't have 1 per 300.
don't.
No. No. Mm-mm.
That's kind of, I mean, a brewery is more, they take up a lot of room with just their equipment and industrial stuff. To me, that's a little onerous.
So you could just, the restaurant part, you could call it the serving area or whatever.
that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
All right, I will add that.
Yeah,
Good
because
point,
like,
Nate. Thank
because like
you.
the fueling station says per square foot of retail sales area, so.
Yeah,
You could take the brewery thing away. The name brewer, that's more industrial. You're making the,
bar or
people
beer
call, I know,
brewery,
people call them.
serving area only makes sense to me
Okay.
in both cases.
All right.
All right. Well, this took longer than I thought it would, but it was a really good discussion needed to be had.
Mhm.
And I will get back with him with everything
Yeah.
that we've talked about tonight. What else on our agenda?
Do we need to?
I think that's it.
Thank you very much for the reminder. I meant to say that. Where are we on, our next meeting on the 11th? Presumably needs to be noticed and,
Austin's meeting with us.
on the 11th. We need to have that advertised. What are we doing to get that advertised?
I think wasn't that, it's not one that requires newspaper. That's only when you get to the actual like
Yeah, yeah.
presentation of this is the final draft.
Yeah.
But we can do it however, I mean, we can,
I just want to make sure the dates don't sneak up on us and that we, 10/25 is our first public meeting. What's your deadline for getting that in the newspaper? Do you know? And how much notice do we have to give before the meeting on the 25th?
Yeah, we should publish that. I mean, as soon as possible. I'll make a note of
Okay,
a
and
reminder.
then 11/8 is the other one. And 12/6, I guess, as well. You have that calendar.
Yeah.
so.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll just make a reminder to,
And you publish
Do
those in the
publish,
Courier usually. The Courier is
what's that?
the Courier, is that the? Yeah, no problem.
Is that the one that's affiliated with the,
Gazette,
yeah,
yeah.
okay, yeah, that's what we
That's
usually
fine.
do.
Okay, is there any other business, any of the commissioners need to bring up? Rocco, you're good?
Good, thank you.
All right, we stand adjourned at, what time is it? 8:13.